Hello, everyone. Welcome again to the Functionally Enlightened Podcast. Today, we have a special guest, Shruti Sethi, who is a Cornell-certified plant-based nutritionist, holistic cancer coach, which I'm super excited to hear from her, and yoga therapy expert. She's also the author of the book, The Healing Power Within. So I'm sure we're going to hear a little bit about that today in our conversation. And so she's going to be sharing with us her personal journey on how she overcame Hodgkin's lymphoma and the transformative power of integrative medicine. We'll learn how Shruti's experience reversing stage 3 cancer in just 6 months led to her embracing a holistic approach to healing. And this will be inclusive of the mind-body connection and the importance of addressing root cause, as well as how to best navigate the challenges that come about with the cancer recovery. So, Shruti, I'm so excited again to have you. Thank you so much for being here. Can you start us off by telling us a little bit more about your personal journey?
Sure, Sharon. Thank you so much for having me here. My journey started with me discovering Hodgkin's lymphoma in 2016. I was 34 years. And of course, when you hear the word cancer, it's undigestible. Like, how can you get cancer? I had no history of family history of cancer per se. And I thought I was living healthy. You go to the gym, you exercise, you take care of yourself. I was not into drinking, smoking. Then it is just not unfathomable to your mind, your logical mind, that how can you get cancer? And with the doctors, when you sit with them, they said maybe your body is prone to it, or it was there. You don't get definitive answers. So for me, it was very, very daunting journey, and answering these things at the time when I was also going through divorce. That why me? What was this? Like, why did God choose me to go through it right now? And I was a fashion designer, so I had no idea of what is your immune system, what does immunity do, what are NK cells and this cells and everything. So for me, it was a whole lot of discovery to do. Then as you start taking responsibility of your own health and your own healing journey, as you did, Sharon, such an inspiring journey, you kind of understand the relationship between the mind and the body, plus the root cause, actually, what was going in your body or few years from the conception point, or even from you started having certain issues, your body is always giving signs and symptoms. And for me, the symptoms were uh, PCOD. I had a PCOD issue. I had severe acne on my skin. Like, my skin is now clear, but I had severe acne to the point that I told my mom I want to get a surgery done. Like, I hate my face. Um, I had gut issues, I had asthma and anxiety, but all I was doing is masking them with a tape and taking the pill. I took birth control pills. I don't know what else I did. Just taking the shortcut, not understanding the underlying cause of it. And so it got flared up. And when you are in a stressful situation, for my stress was going through a divorce, of course, 2-3 years back, the relationship issues and stuff. So you don't really notice that, but there's these subtle changes which happen to you, which lead to, and then your body starts giving up. Like, the cancer was just a crying for help, that look inside you, look inside your mind, body, and soul, what's happening. So for me, it was like such a huge blow. But then I would say the entire journey, what I've gone through, and finding the holistic practices, integrative medicine, working with such beautiful doctors who helped me heal, was a rewarding experience. And since 2016, my treatment, I did take chemotherapy. I'm not denying the medical world or the conventional treatment, but I also changed my lifestyle. I went into whole plant-based lifestyle. So I gave up dairy, and I was a vegetarian, but for me, giving up dairy was a huge thing because I thought protein means dairy. So I did that. I worked on my mindset. I worked on my healing modalities, other healing modalities and all. And in 6 months, the cancer was gone, like 6 months. 4 chemos, the cancer was gone. I was in remission, and I didn't take radiation. I told the doctors, no, I want to just take a break and understand my body my way. And that's how it did. And since then, I've been living cancer free.
That's amazing. And that was 2016?
2016, yes.
Yeah. So a lot of people who go the conventional route, they do opt for the chemotherapy, radiation, but they don't go beyond that. They don't go to the lifestyle piece and the nutrition piece, which is like a fundamental thing to really look at, because over the years, we're exposed to so many toxins, environmental toxins, and what you were talking about, the emotional, spiritual toxins that we go through, or stressors, when we deal with traumatic events like a divorce or like the loss of a loved one. It could be a series of smaller traumas that are happen, and you just can't get out of that vicious cycle. But what you mentioned, and that you advocated for yourself in that you did approach with chemotherapy. So what was that point that had you really decide? How did you have the motivation to reach out and do the research for holistic practices that could be helpful?
Yes. So when I went to the doctors, like my first chemo was terrible. Like it was the most terrifying experience and very painful.
Mm.
And when I used to go to the doctors, I used to always look at people and talk to people, other women or other people in the hospital, and ask them that, uh, how did they find out about cancer, and is this the first time they're coming? And most of the people came second or third time, and they've gotten relapsed like this. They're there for the second line of treatment, third line of treatment. I
Mm.
said, oh my God. And I used to look at their faces, and they were like fearing as if the death is nearby. And I'm like, I don't want to be in this situation. It is just too much. And I'm young, and I can do so much. And that a burning desire that I haven't really made a mark for myself yet, because you're so young and stuff, said, I want to do something about this. So that led me to go beyond my horizons, stepping out of my comfort zone. Not only just, okay, you listen to the doctors, but there is always another way. There's always another choice. We just need to look out for it.
Mhm.
So I started, when I made up my mind, automatically I think the universe sends people, or I started looking for books and hearing people out, other people who have healed themselves, etc. And the most one fundamental thing everyone was doing who was living cancer free was working on their lifestyle, was working on their diet, was working on their mental health. So for me, body was compartmentalized. I never understood this correlation between the mind and body. And then I started, when I was working with an integrative doctor, like he was a functional homeopathy doctor. All he did was, in the first meeting, our first meeting was very interesting. He made me sat in the room. He was across me, and I had a mic. He was recording me, and he was just asking me questions
Mm.
and letting my emotions flow out. And I cried for 1.5 hours. That's what I did. And he didn't prescribe me any medication. And he told me, and I'm and I still remember that, now your healing journey starts. Now you'll get healed. So why was this? Because I felt such a huge relief from my chest, because I spoke out, and whatever this cramped up emotions I had,
Mhm.
it started feeling very lighter, and I loved that feeling. When you change your nutrition, so for nutrition also, I started working with someone. I've worked with so many coaches with my healing journey, and I
Mhm.
learned from everyone. And I saw the difference. It's not, for first two chemotherapies, there was no way where I was just listening to the doctor, and their advice was, eat whatever you want, eat ice
Right,
cream,
right.
eat junk food, whatever you feel like, eat. But when I started working with a coach, they obviously improvised my diet, and told me obviously sugar is not allowed, and anti-inflammatory diet, anti-cancer diet. And I started going on a whole plant-based diet, and I saw remarkable, huge difference in the nausea, in the pain, in me not sleeping well. I started sleeping well. I started working. in just few weeks. So I thought, my God, this should continue. And this is so amazing. In 2 weeks, 3 weeks, the body starts to feeling better just because you've done certain changes. So that was me, the experiment which I did, and I was like open to it. Like I was open to change because I didn't want it to get cancer back. That was the whole motivation behind it. And I wanted to live a disease-free life. So that made me go, and I still search for new things. I love talking to people. I love
Mhm.
understanding the new discoveries with cancers, etc. So yeah, I mean, it was such an eye opener that simple things, changing certain things can make such a huge difference. And that's what I tell people who are going through cancer is that it's fine. You want to go with the convention therapy, go, but don't fail to understand what causes it with the first time. Uh, so for some people, they really understand. For some people, they don't. Each and every person has their own journey, but for people like us, it's our responsibility and duty, I feel, to empower people with the knowledge and the experience we've gained. So
Mhm.
that's what I think. Yeah. If somebody can get a little bit of hope and a will and a direction,
Mhm.
I think that's the most rewarding thing I feel.
Yeah, that's definitely true in all senses. And a couple of things I want to go back to. One of them that you said you transitioned to the plant-based diet. Were you eating any meat prior to that, or
No,
no?
I never ate meat, but I was
Mhm.
heavily into dairy. Like I used to drink 3 glasses of cow's milk
Wow.
every day. Yeah.
Yeah, and we see that in all of the research now that dairy can be very inflammatory, and a couple of other, eggs, gluten for sure. So did you have to eliminate all of the gluten, and how did you go
I
about the grains part of it?
I did eliminate wheat because my gut was a problem,
Yeah.
and for someone who has gut dysbiosis and really gas and bloating, I feel wheat can be heavier for their gut. So I did eliminate all kinds of sugar. I eliminated dairy, I eliminated wheat, and I eliminated all kind of processed sugars,
Yeah.
processed foods, including oils for a certain time. That was the complete whole plant based. I focused on fiber, on polyphenols, and eating nuts and seeds and berries and fruits. Eliminated fruit juices,
Mhm.
stuck to my green juices and fruit and smoothies. But that was pretty much my diet. Like it was very easy to digest
Yeah.
diet.
Yeah, and similarly I see the same kind of phenomenon with chronic illness in general. We need to not process our foods, but make it as easily digestible as possible. So in the case of dysautonomia, we seem to do better with a GAPS type diet, a ketogenic GAPS diet, where you're cooking your food in a broth, like a soup almost, and so it's kind of pre-digested, but you're able to keep some of the nutrients in there and absorb as much as possible, because we suffer from nutrient deficiencies. And you yourself, you went through the therapies that make the nausea horrendous, and you might develop food aversions and you don't want to eat any foods, but you know that the more you miss out on the nutrition part of it, the sicker your body becomes. Um,
Absolutely right.
so I know you've developed kind of with your own healing journey, you've developed an approach to helping other people who've been recently diagnosed with cancer, but also preventative. Can you talk to us a little bit about the differences in the approaches that you take with your
Yeah.
clients?
Yes. So preventive people who have preventive cancer, our protocols are for people who have a history of cancer. For example, somebody has a history of breast cancer or prostate cancer, or anybody in their family has, and they have this fear. These days, I think you also know that everyone we talk to have some or the other person dealing with, know somebody who's going through cancer.
Mm.
The statistics shows that 1 in 5 people will get diagnosed with cancer by 2050.
Mm.
And now in US is of course number one in cancer. Now India is no far behind.
Mm.
So India has become number 2. Very soon it'll become number 1. So we decided that this approach should benefit people. So we try and learn quickly, tell them how to stay informed. Most of the people don't get their blood work done, right? So what we try to say is just take in, and I learned this from the functional practitioners in my functional training program, that take care of a few parameters such as HSCRP and your inflammatory marker CSR, and take care of HbA1c. Plus, you want to take care of your vitamin D levels, very important. And do these genome type tests if you have a history of cancer, so that you just want to stay informed and you want to take some steps to avoid cancer. So lifestyle modifications, going on an anti-cancer lifestyle at least 80% of the time. I understand that everything is not practical, but at least take care of your vitamins, minerals, take some supplementations. And that's how we try and help them, just giving them information on how they can manage themselves. It's not like a very broader perspective program, but a shorter duration where we empower them so that they don't need us, or and they don't want to live in that fear.
Right.
Yeah. And work on their mindset. Always give this number 1 priority on the stress management, because stress triggers inflammation and cancer cells and all that. So everybody has some or the other stressors these days. So how to first identify that you're going through a stress situation, because people don't even know they are going through stress situation. As you said, like, we just go on with life and we don't know. So we try and give people a perspective of that, managing, how do you manage your stress, how to live in the moment, and then give them advice on lifestyle and supplementation and etc. So that would be our preventive care program.
Okay. And with the mindset piece, is there certain practices that you often recommend? I know there might be some people that have a hard time, first off, carving out the amount of time needed to really focus on self and to unplug.
Yes, I would say the number 1 activity which everyone can do, not only for preventive, is breath work. Pranayama, taking 2 or 3 techniques in a day. Like, it just takes 5 minutes of your day, and it's just inhaling from your left nostril, exhaling from your right, inhaling from your right, exhaling from the left. So left, right, left. So that will improve the oxygenation. It will give you instant peace and calm within yourself. And you know that mostly cancer and other inflammation happens because there is a lot of oxidative stress in the body. And inflammation plus the cellular level, the oxygen starts to decrease as we age. So we want to make sure, and the air quality is already so bad these days. So we want to just focus on breath work, doing that technique, plus doing something called Kapalbhati, when you only exhale, focus on exhaling. So a little bit faster, that practice. That's called a detox asana. That means it really detoxes your lungs. It removes the excess of carbon dioxide and stuff. And third would be just meditating for 2 minutes or 3 minutes, just inhaling, exhaling, focusing on their inhale, exhalation. That's a very beginning technique where people can at least do it before they sleep, or just when they wake up, empty stomach. And that will also take care of the stress, also take care of your any imbalances. And it's very practical and easy to do at home.
Yeah. And you named the 2 times. I absolutely keep it as a must do. When I wake up, I do different things. I do my spiritual practice where I'm reading a devotion, but I'm practicing the breathing techniques too. I'll have to look at the other ones. I focus on trying to get the parasympathetic mode turned
Yeah.
on, especially because with myself, whenever I measure my own cortisol response curve, and I know that in the mornings, my cortisol is super elevated. So I really need to work on, modulating that, bringing it down, but not too far. And then the same thing with nighttime. Sometimes my sympathetic nervous system is still on. So I get into that, not the fight or flight mode per se, but it's still turned on where it might make it difficult for me to fall asleep. So I do use some breathing practices for nighttime to try to get myself ready for that rest and restoration.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely a good tool. And so you have other practices. I know that you have a background in yoga. So how do you bring that into the mix?
Oh, my life changed with yoga. When I started practicing yoga when I got diagnosed with cancer, and this was one of the healing modalities. I was not into yoga at all. I was into playing badminton, or I was doing gymming and some other forms of things. So yoga was boring to me that time, but I needed to bring it into practice because of not only it is yoga is basically union of your mind and body, according to me, and it helps you when you do the asanas. It really helps you to uh, unravel the mysteries behind those postures. And when you twist and turn, it kind of detoxes you, if I have to tell you. And when you stay in one posture, it not only gives you patience, like from mind perspective, but it also improves your capacity to embrace what's there. So when I started doing it, I kind of felt so relieved. I don't know why, but I felt relieved, as if something's coming out of my body, the stress level, the cortisol levels, or the body's feeling light when I stretch and everything. So I use that as one of the protocols. And after the diagnosis, after the chemotherapy, that was one of my healing practices to follow. And I remember, and I have written in my journal that I practiced yoga for 365 days, 360 days, not 365. Oh, no, sorry, 300 days in a year. Uh, and how it give me the strength back, plus made my body flexible. And I was not able to sit down properly. I was able to sit down and also stay more in the moment and be calm and peaceful with myself. So yoga is just not physical, but it is a lot to do with your mental body. And people often tell me it's so boring. Like, I need something to do with, going in strength and everything. I said yoga has everything. You just need to figure out the practice properly.
For sure. Yeah, I really loved yoga when I was able to do it. Back in my youth, I'll say in my 20s, I made it a part of my routine too. I did do the weight training as well, but I alternated one day on, one day off. Really loved it. And I know a lot of the people, even in the fertility health space, they really benefit from both yoga and Pilates, which I
Yeah.
think are, like you mentioned, they don't see it as strength building, but it's definitely requiring a lot of strength and stamina, and then of course the mindfulness piece, like making sure you're staying in the correct posture, but not allowing yourself to be stressed about maintaining the posture. I don't know if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
They do. That's right. That's right. And also works with breath work, right? If you work with the right yoga instructor, they will tell you when to inhale and when to exhale. And that also creates space, and that also creates a lot of I feel it's very divine when you do yoga. And if you're a practitioner, or if your coach could really help you go deeper into the yogic philosophy, that can be a real game changer for one's health.
And I spoke to Deanna Hansen, who she does block therapy, and what she emphasizes is that we store a lot of these toxins or stressors within our fascia.
Yeah.
So as you're talking about yoga, I know that these positions open the body up and like physically can help release the toxins too. You were talking about that a little bit. How would you explain that process?
So I'll give you a very simple example of when you twist and turn. So you take your hands and you twist your intestine and you really look beyond your shoulders and stuff like that. Your intestine gets twisted. And those, when you twist something, what happens? Like when you twist a towel or something, what happens? It's the same theory with your intestines. It removes, it secretes,
Mhm.
and it kind of removes all those toxins from the body. Your liver gets, there are different asanas for different organs. So when we try and stimulate those organs, we try and stimulate our stomach and all with these, they have a very profound effect, not only on toxins, but also people. I've seen in my practice that people who have extreme acidity, people who have low gastric acid in their stomach, those people also start developing the agni, like it's fire. If there is a digestive problem, that means the agni, the fire element in the body, is not working. Either it is in deficiency or it's in excess. So
Mm.
when you do these postures, it kind of corrects your imbalances, your doshas and the chakras. So it's a very deep thing, which it's very subtle changes you'll see. Nothing happens in one time.
Yeah, exactly.
Time to notice and connect with yourself, but it happens. And I'll give you an example. I'm working with, in my classes here, one of the ladies had extreme constipation that she had to take enema every single day. And she started practicing and she got relieved of her constipation. She said, "Oh my God, I've been suffering since years and years." So it took time for her to reach to this level. You can't expect miracle in one day. But
Hmm.
if you keep on track, if you keep practicing, I'm sure it will make a huge difference.
Yeah, and that's key too, that you know that it's going to take time to heal, but you're also encouraged by any small changes in the positive direction that keeps you motivated to keep going.
Mm.
So we don't get into the chronic health space in a day or in a week, even though some of us might have experienced more debilitating situation, like immediately following some drastic event, maybe a car accident or a surgery, like in my case. But it is an ongoing thing, and also an ongoing thing once you identify those stressors in the body and you develop, even if we don't want to call it a protocol, everyone who's in healing, in remission, in that journey, and they know it's lifelong. It's not something that you can practice for 3 months and go back to the old ways. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's a process. I would say it's like healing never ends. It never ends. There's always so much to do. It's like peeling the onion layers. And I always tell people, if you've come to this path, it's a roller coaster ride. Some days you'll be okay. Sometimes you'll be like, absolutely depressed. But just consistency is the key on this path, for sure.
Mhm. One of the things that helped me on my journey, and I see it's something that I try to implement in all of my programs, is that when we accept it, we also stop that fear response. And, we don't go to Dr. Google as much, and we don't seek out medical attention for every symptom. And so the symptoms are not really a curse. They're a beautiful sign that our body's telling us something is wrong. And embracing that part of it made me not fear the symptoms as much. Instead of, again, I used to be like, oh, I have tachycardia and my blood pressure is dropping too quickly. Other things, if I had nausea for 2 or 3 days and I wasn't able to eat, I wouldn't have that fear that I'm going to die of starvation. So this is
Yeah, that's so
just,
true. That's so true. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, even me including, I had a fear of relapse for a long time. I know small little things. Oh my God, is the cancer coming back? Is the cancer coming back? So you rightly said you have to accept it and you have to embrace. I think life is beautiful. Embrace each and every moment and don't let, because if you're in fear, again, your cortisol level spikes up. You just get in this imbalanced state.
Mhm. And
So you get into it. Yes.
yeah, we were talking about the preventative component of it, but we also know that you work with people who are in active
Yeah.
chronic, like cancer recovery journeys. Can you tell us a little bit about what that entails?
Yeah. So people who have just diagnosed with cancer, first of all, we would want to understand every part of their history. For example, we sit with them and understand that whether they've we understand all the symptoms before they got diagnosed. What was going on in their blood work before that, if they have done any blood work. Have they suffered with are they suffering with any metabolic issues? How is the cholesterol levels? If they have thyroid, diabetes, etc. If they have any other issues going on, how are their vitamins level, minerals level? If they've gone through, we also like to understand whether they've exposed to any environmental toxins such as mold, or if they're exposed to any other bacterial infections. What medications were they on? A lot of people are on PPIs and antacids and stuff, and have extreme high bouts of acidity. We would want to understand the emotional health as to what stressors are there, etc., in their life. And once we understand this, we try and correlate with signs and symptoms. And so people who have hormone-based cancer, we would work with them differently. People who have gut issues, gut cancer, and we also want to know whether, what is the systematic approach they are taking. Are they taking radiation? Are they taking chemotherapy? Or they are taking are they going with surgery? So each and every other aspects are different. We also trying to gather their reports and make a file and also share it with our functional doctors, who help us design their protocols based on what supplementations should they take, whether this kind of vitamin D is proper, or whether curcumin would help them, or etc. So there are different protocols we've made for different kinds of cancers, plus different kinds of stages.
Yeah.
If somebody comes at the fourth stage, so that's like aggressive. So we like to work with them more on a holistic approach, as to uh because their mindset is different. Fourth stage is like, oh my God, like I'm about to die now. What? And they almost giving up on life, which I've seen, and they don't want to do anything. So their family members want to do everything for them, but they are in this sad state that now my life is done and over with. Because uh, I feel sometimes bad that the doctors just tell them that, oh, just go with this diagnosis. You don't have time to live. Go home back. And I always feel there is a way, and at least they can improve the quality of their life. So, that is a more emotional sort of a journey which we have to take with them. And there is no support system for anything they're feeling. So we try and support them emotionally. And we always have a WhatsApp group with them where they can share any kind of issues they're going with, so that they know they can rely on someone. So we try and do that. I also I have a community of cancer patients. I meet everyone once a week. We meditate together. We laugh together. We try and do these pranayamas, yoga together, so that everyone can share what they're going through and they don't feel alone. That's something I have recently started, and I'm loving it, because I feel that people also who don't live in community, and people who live alone, they suffer from this depression and lack of security. And when you meet someone who's going through the same journey, it feels quite good.
Agreed, 100%. So the community piece, I love that you offer that. And then you mentioned the laughter. We don't think of laughter as medicine, or actually we may have heard it, but we don't really apply it to our lives. And when we're hit with something like cancer or a chronic diagnosis specifically, because sometimes you're just left in limbo, not knowing what's going on. But when you get that diagnosis, you either have a sense of relief because now you know what you're attacking, or you feel that withdrawal stage, like you mentioned, I'm giving up on life, there's nothing I can do. But with the community, and if you can embed laughter and joy into it, there's so much more that people can hold on to.
Yeah, absolutely. And disease, or even if you've gone through chronic issue, I feel cancer has been a blessing, because I'm such a different person now. I embrace life more. I don't look into petty things that something's bothering me. You're much beyond all these things. And that's what I try to tell people, even if they're like given no hope. look beyond the disease. You are not your body, you are the soul, and embrace your whole being. It's
Mhm.
disease is just a part of it.
Yes, and that we're all worth more than we give ourselves credit. That's true.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
before we wrap up, I know you touched up on some of the labs that you look at, especially for the inflammatory markers. So we're looking at the ESR, the or the SED rate. We're also looking at, I remember you said a few, but can you repeat some
CRP,
of those?
CRP,
CRP.
HSCRP, high sensitivity.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's basically your inflammatory markers. I would stress upon the vitamin D factor a lot because I've seen patients, and now, right now, everybody is like in this deficiency of vitamin D. Nobody's going
Right.
and connecting with nature. And I've seen in cancer patients, the levels are less than 20. My level was less than 10.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's one of the most important factors. And people, I don't know why doctors don't take your labs. Whenever you go to a GP, they don't do your labs until unless you specify it. So very important to take care of that. Please check your HbA1c so that
Yes.
you know that you're not pre-diabetic. Actually, if you have insulin resistance, that means you're going into the pre-diabetic mode.
Hmm.
So few labs you would want to do. If you are a woman, I would say check your hormones, like the whole hormonal panels, thyroid, do the whole thyroid panels, and kidney, liver, all that parameters. So usually we tell whoever is healthy that do it once a week, once a year.
Hmm.
But I would stress upon that if you are above 30, please do your labs twice a year so that you know everything's going well for you.
Hmm. Hmm. And I do want to stress also on the vitamin D because we're spending so much time indoors and like you said, not connecting with nature. We are not exposed to the sunlight that we need. And a lot of people might have some genetic SNPs that prevent them from methylating or generating vitamin D correctly. So that in the optimal ranges, we see 50 to 80 is more where we want to see it. But in the conventional labs, they have a much lower range. And so we're missing that area to where
Mhm.
people can start heading in the negative direction.
Very true, absolutely. Even I didn't understand this, but now anybody who's going through cancer, their labs should be between 40 to 50. Optimal is that range because you would lose because after if you're going with conventional therapy, the chemo is so toxic, you will lose calcium, you will lose a lot of other minerals. So you want to keep that very optimally. And I've seen a lot of people who have arthritis and osteoporosis having very low form of vitamin D because also, in spite of taking D, they're not synthesizing, as you said very correctly. So you would want to do vitamin D plus K2. I mean, if you can go through a methylation test, great. But if you can't, I feel a lot of people are not synthesizing the D as well.
Right. Yeah, and appreciate that you touched on that. And you mentioned the full thyroid panel. That's another one that when clients come in, they come with their lab work, but you only see a TSH and sometimes a T4 or maybe even a free T4. So what would you recommend people look at?
I've seen here in my practice, and I've worked with one young girl who was just about to get married, 22. She came to me and she had extreme gut issues. She never used to get up in the morning energetic. She was a
Mhm.
teacher and she was overweight, and the doctor never checked her thyroid levels. And we checked her thyroid level. Her TSH was 26.
Wow.
And she had antibodies and anti-TPO. Her free 3/4, free T4 and 3 were fine, but she was deficient in T3.
Mm.
So we miss out on all these essential things, and she had autoimmune condition.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So we worked, and she was open to approach it holistically. So in this scenario, you would imagine the doctor would say, take this synthroid and take this other things, right?
Hmm.
But she came to me, she told me, I don't want to go through this. I'm just going to get married. I want to get over it. So I said, okay, let's work on your gut health. Let's work on detoxing. She had her father had passed away a year back. She was obviously depressed, and She was getting married, and she was like, okay, now what do I do? So we worked on detoxing her gut, majorly worked on her gut, and obviously started her on certain supplements, gave her a good dose of selenium, magnesium, and
Hmm.
worked on her diet. And you won't believe, in 2 months, 2.5 months, her TSH became 2.6 or something
Nice.
without taking medications.
Right, right. Yeah.
And her antibodies are obviously reduced. It's so supposed to be less than one, I guess, but it's almost on the borderline. We're working on her antibodies still,
Hmm.
anti-TPO and thyroxine peroxide. So she never went on the medication part. But yes, she was open to it. Her openness really mattered to me. She had that faith and trust that I will go the holistic way, worked on her diet, worked on her mental health, plus she worked on her exercising regime,
Yes.
going out in the sun and walking. And so I always say people that there's hope. It looks very difficult to change your mindset and habits, but if you can, you will get the results no matter what.
Yeah, and with every healing journey, it's a common theme. It seems so simple to implement, but I know working with a practitioner like you, Shruti, and like myself, it helps to streamline things. But we talk about proper nutrition, we talk about optimizing movement, identifying the stressors, which can be physical, spiritual, mental, emotional. We talk about nurturing sleep. Sleep is such a crucial thing that people overlook. They think 6 hours is enough to get by. They don't need to be in bed until 1 in the morning. But those kinds of things, they're simple adjustments to make a dramatic effect. And then the targeted therapies, what you were talking about, you look over the labs, you see where there's inflammatory markers pointing to maybe some specific organ groups, but you're still looking holistically. So I appreciate that you and functional practitioners are always looking at how does the body support itself overall rather than I'm going to target this pathogen in the gut and that's it.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And with functional nutrition practice, what I really understood is that they correlate everything, right? If your liver has certain parameters, if you have a fatty liver, how are your lipid levels doing? Is there any ratio of the high triglycerides missing, or is that the HDL LDL ratio? What is that talking to you?
Hmm.
So, if you try and understand that thing, if you have diabetes, then what's going on in your liver parameters and stuff. So that I really understood, and I really appreciate that somebody started looking from that perspective.
Yeah, yeah. So, Shruti, if people want to reach out to you, learn more about your practice or your programs, and also learn more about your book, we didn't talk too much about your book. So, if you could just mention what your
Yeah.
book is about, and then let us know how people can reach out to you.
So there are components to my book. The reason why I chose to write a book was because I saw a lot of other cancer survivors like Louis Hay was such an inspiration, Anita Moorjani, and those books changed my life. So I was
Mhm.
like, okay, if I took a vow when I was going through these holistic healings, and something just, I don't know, I was meditating and it just came to me that if I get well, I am going to do something about it. So one of the reasons why I wrote the book is that if I can change people's perspective, it's such a winner. It'll be so validating. So my book is about my journey, how I battled cancer, how I discovered holistic healings, and how they help with various interviews of integrative practitioners, doctors who helped me in my journey.
Mhm.
Plus, I have discussed few cases of people who have gone through cancer and how they have recovered using our program and holistic healings. So it's basically a comprehensive book where it could be helpful to anybody who's going through cancer or they have a loved one who's going through cancer. I've discussed my diet, I've discussed supplements, I've given a lot of scientific evidences behind what needs to be done, and so what has helped me. So that's something which I wanted to leave a legacy behind. So I guess I hope this book will help many people.
Absolutely. And we will provide a link to that in our show notes. But how else can they reach out to you or your practice again? Because I know you have a pretty expansive team there, right?
Yes. So my website is called www.awanahealth.com, AWAANAHELTH.com. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube.
Okay, so we will include that in the show notes again. And any last tips that you want to leave off to enlighten our audience? You know, we are communities of either people with chronic illness, dysautonomias, implant illness, cancer even, or of course, family of those people who've been diagnosed.
I would say that chronic issues and diseases again is a sign and symptom your body is giving you, and it doesn't develop all of a sudden. It takes years and years to develop. So if you want to really understand the root cause, there is always a way, and take responsibility of your health in your own hands and not give it away to the doctors by not asking them questions. There's always a path which you need to unfold. So never give up. Healing, taking a holistic path is not that easy, but it is a very rewarding experience. I'm 100% sure that whoever takes this path along or with the conventional treatment will be a very different person. So all I want to say is life is beautiful. Embrace it. Embrace what you're going through, because it will teach you and reward you for times to come.
Very wise words from Shruti. So I thank you again so much from the bottom of my heart for coming on the show and enlightening myself and our audience. And just we appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Sharon. Your story is amazing. I love what you do. And I hope, and I'm sending you lots of love and healings your way too.
Thank you.
And keep doing what you're doing, because you're doing an amazing job and we need people like you.
I appreciate that. And thank you again. Thank you to our audience. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you so much.